It's the MCG where we start, and we're joined by the delightful Bharat Sundaresan, a long-time friend of this program, brilliant writer, broadcaster, and commentator. Bharat, so much to talk about. I'll let you set the agenda because I don't know where to start. But Gideon Hay described this as one of the great Test matches of all time, which is quite a statement. It was very, very good, and there is lots to talk about. Are you still absorbing it?
Oh, very much so. I mean, the birds have taken over, man, as the MCG. The birds seem to have found something on the center pitch, which is not covered right now, that they seem to be enjoying. And honestly, there wasn't a lot in there for the bowlers. So, from a cricketing sense, it was a test which, like Gideon said, was extraordinary. I mean, the roller coaster ride that we've been on over the last 5 days here in Melbourne in front of extraordinary crowds as well. I mean, they shattered the record for the most audience for an MCG test. I mean, they broke the Boxing Day test record yesterday, but today they just smashed it. I think 3,000 or 375,000 people overall came and watched what was a sensational test match. And the only reason I bring the birds up is India ended up losing what felt like an unlosable test going into that final session. But, I'm not surprised that it happened because you just knew there was a final twist. There had been so many twists and turns. To why quote me, quote Pat Cummins. So when I met him downstairs for our radio interview, post-match radio interview, he just came, hugged me, and he said, how are you coping with that? And he sounded as much as a fan than he did the test captain who had led his country to victory. And he wasn't the only one. I met Manas, who had lost his voice. He was as excited as Cummins was, not just because they won. Obviously, nothing like a great test victory, but it was a celebration of test cricket at the MCG.
And that means India out and Australia in. There's no, they can't get back from this, can they? India, Australia in the World Test Championship final now?
Not quite, Hami. I think if India draw level in Sydney, which is always difficult, as we know. I mean, even South Africa got away with a draw. Sorry, I just had to throw in that manners 2 years ago. That South African team, not the South African team that has managed to reach the WTC final at odds. I think India still have an outside chance if they draw level, and then they depend on what happens in Sri Lanka. And look, I mean, Sri Lanka could do India a favor and produce absolute rank turners in goal and really mess up Australia. But at this point, it does look very much like you said, Hami, like in Australia, South Africa, WTC final.
Here's a scenario for you. 3 days of rain at Sydney, which is customary, and that finishes in a draw. Sri Lanka win 2-0, and they make the final in place of Australia. Anyway, never mind that. I want to ask you, it's possible mathematically.
It is.
But I wanted to ask you two things, and I know you've written loads and loads and loads, so your thoughts will be nicely distilled, and so you can be quite succinct. But Nitish Reddy's century, I may be mistaken, but it seemed to me like the MCG crowd actually gave him a standing ovation, which is extraordinary. There's that, and you've had, what, 4 days now to contemplate the Virat Kohli, Sam Konstas shoulder charge. Well, so your thoughts on those two things?
Oh, firstly, the Nitish Kumar Reddy thing, manners. Look, yes. Firstly, you also have to admit that 60% of the crowd was Indian, a lot of Indian flags waving, and his dad was right amidst them. Generally, when you have a moment like that, the family's in a box somewhere, a corporate box or a player's box, and it never feels the same. Here, his dad, who's made so many sacrifices, it's a wonderful human story. It's one of those classic Indian middle class stories, sacrifices from his dad and the rest of the family that's enabled Nitish Kumar Reddy to pursue Test cricket. And then his talent has taken him to the heights that we're seeing him achieve. And he looks like a proper Test cricketer who will bat in the top order and make a lot of runs for India. But yeah, I mean, that moment was, again, if this Test match was a celebration of Test cricket, that was just a celebration of sport. Like, it didn't matter what was happening in the match. It didn't matter what else was happening, how far Australia were ahead or how behind India were in that game. It was all about that one run, and the way it played out as well. Just one wicket left. And Pat Cummins, the guy who really helped Nitish Kumar grow as his IPL captain, could have been the villain in the piece. Got rid of Bumrah. Siraj somehow survived 3 balls. And that the roar for the Siraj delivery, the one that he defended, was as loud as the one which followed when Reddy just pumped the ball over mid-on for 4. And yeah, I mean, just I ran down to try and find his dad. And I felt like I was in India because his dad and his family, and Manners, you've seen a lot of this, they were pinned against the wall. They'd been mobbed. Their lives had changed forever. And on the Kohli Konstas thing, it was in that moment, and I was on air when I saw it happen right here. You could see Kohli walking in towards Konstas. He changed direction, and I thought he's going to say something to him, something not nice. But eventually, she just very clearly just made contact, and then almost he looked more shocked than Konstas was. Like, I don't know what he had done, or maybe he was just trying to, play the pantomime villain. But if it was any other player, I can see a scenario, any other Indian player as well, that the sanction would have been a lot more. Um, the fact that Virat Kohli, a couple of hours after that incident, was dancing like he always does during the drinks break to the Indian music, and he almost seemed to know that not much is going to come of it. I joked about how the word reprimand will be used a lot to by the ICC to sum up that incident. As it was a 20% fine, it was sad. Sam Constas has spoken about how much he's looked up to Virat Kohli in his young life. And for a senior player or someone of Kohli's stature to, indulge in something like that with a young debutant who's just having the time of his life was a little uncalled for, unnecessary. But like I said, he got away with it. And the MCG crowd, though, let him know. He was booed a lot. Virat Kohli is not used to being booed anymore, or not in the last few years anyway. So it was quite something. And then, karma. It was his dismissal, in my opinion, which was as vital to India losing as was Rishabh Pant's shot in the end.
And Bharat, what about Rishabh Pant? I don't know whether you were in adjoining commentary boxes or anywhere near to Sunil Gavaskar, but we've all seen the clip on social media now. It looked like he was going to have a heart attack. He just said, I don't know. Rishabh Pant's a genius, but he's not. Doesn't seem to be a very clever one at times.
Oh no, and coming off that first innings dismissal, which Sunil Gavaskar described as stupid, 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 and just a little story for you. Just before Rishabh Pant got out after the tea break today, so the last over before tea was bowled by Manas Labuschagne. It was one of those random over full of bouncers, which after a point Rishabh Pant didn't even bother ducking under because all those bouncers were flying over his head. At that point, it did look like we were petering out towards a dull draw, which we're not used to these days, especially between these two teams. And then I just walked up to Sunny Bhai or Sunil Gavaskar during the tea break, and I said, Sunny Bhai, what if we had ramped one of those and gotten out? And Gavaskar just went, oh, no, don't even say that. And then 7 overs later, yeah, he literally came out of nowhere. Travis Head was mainly bowling because Australia wanted to fix their over rate. And then he just tries to clear long on and gets caught by Mitch Marsh right below where I'm sat. And yeah, I mean, he is a genius, like he said. It can look ridiculously fun when it comes off, but then at times, he plays shots which are so, in the moment, you wonder whether he's even thinking about what's happening because the ramp was played at a time there were 2 fielders set up for it. I don't know if it's bravado or just like a brain fade. In both occasions, it seemed like brain fades to me.
I thought Sonny got it spot on. I thought when he said stupid, stupid, I thought he got it absolutely. He got it absolutely spot on. Right, two obviously standout performers for New Zealand, for India into 2024. How much are they going to need to look after Jasprit Bumrah with Champions Trophy, IPL, and everything that's coming with it? Because I mean, the drop off between the rest of the bowling attack seems to be getting bigger without Mohammad Shami, and Jaiswal just gets better and better.
Oh, firstly on Bumrah, Hami, I mean, there was a period last evening and he bowled 23, 24 overs yesterday in the second innings. And those were broken into 9 spells. So Rohit was trying to use him. I mean, I guess when you're Indian captain right now, the you always look smart when you throw the ball to Bumrah because he always delivers, doesn't he? But I think he looked overused. There was even some talk that by the end you could see on Bumrah's face, even he'd had enough. And the last over where he rarely bowls a no ball, but he bowled 2 no balls in that over. One got him the wicket, or the wicket that wasn't to be of Nathan Lyon. Went for 14 runs. He did look tired towards the end of the day, and there's only a 3-day gap between this test and Sydney. He will play in Sydney, but you're right. It's been Bumrah or bust for India throughout this series. And you feel for him. And someone asked Pat Cummins in the press conference today if he has any empathy for Bumrah. Obviously, Pat Cummins is not going to say yes when the series is still alive. But I'm sure deep inside he does. So how can you not? And Akashdeep's been okay, Siraj has been okay, but it's always felt like a different game when Bumrah has the ball in his hand. He won them the test match in Perth. He really set it up alongside Yashasvi Jaiswal. And you feel for Yashasvi in the first innings. He looked set for another 100 and then ran himself out. There's been a lot of debate about whose fault it was. I guess it was his. Hit the ball harder than he thought he had. And once again today, at a time when we're celebrating Sam Konstas and thinking about the future as Test cricket will be played on steroids or on fast forward, here's a young man, and you guys saw a lot of him when he batted against England, who's played so many different types of innings. He's hit a lot of sixes yet, but today was a classic saving the test kind of innings. And unfortunately, it ended with Pat Cummins' slower bouncer. But I don't think he'll be the next superstar of Indian cricket. I think he already is. He's really held this test team together with the bat throughout the year.
Bharat Sundaresan, love you lots. Have a fantastic new year. Enjoy the Sydney fireworks, and let's hope it doesn't rain.
It will rain. There will be fireworks, manners. And look, it'll be fun. It's always fun chatting with you guys. And I'm not done at the G yet. I'll be here till the birds are gone, the lights come on, and the Australians haven't done their team song yet. So maybe I'll go join them, manners.
And then have a glass of wine. Thank you so much for your time.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.